Moving on to Windows Server editions, because as I said on the first slide, there's 2 editions of Windows Server, and that is Standard and Datacenter. And the latest version of Windows Server is 2022. It's recently been brought to general availability, and it's still the same licensing model as 2019 with some minor differences that I will touch on the next slide. Windows Server, as the name suggests, is the operating system software for your servers. As such, that is a link to the hardware that you assign it to. For this reason, there's no license mobility rights associated to Windows Server, which is very important. You cannot move this to a hosting solution. There's always, like with the Windows desktop operating system, a one-to-one relationship with the Windows Server software that you install on a server and the server itself. Now, looking at the main difference between the Standard and the Datacenter edition, and that is the virtualization possibilities. And this is very interesting for many organizations, because many organizations that still run their own data center and use Windows Server, they probably have somewhat or some way or some sort of virtualization in their organization. Now, with Data Center, you are allowed to run the server software on the physical operating system environment and an unlimited amount of virtual machines, so you can spin up as much VMs as you want. But with Standard, you are able to run the software in 2 operating system environments on the server and on additional 2 VMs or virtual OSEs. Now, this should be caveated by the next point, which is that Standard licenses are stackable and will grant additional VM entitlements. So, for instance, if you take that server, which needs to be licensed with 16 cores, you can also spin up 2 virtual machines with a total of 16 cores. But what if you want to spin up 4 virtual machines with 32 cores? Then you can buy an additional 16 cores of Windows Server Standard, assign it to that physical server, and have the option to virtualize even more on that Standard edition machine. Now, there's a break-even point when Data Center becomes more favorable price-wise to Standard, and that is around or after 12 VMs per server. So if you have a server environment and start virtualizing, it might make sense to first start with Windows Server Standard, and then when your environment becomes increasingly larger, then move to the Data Center environment. Now, if we look towards Windows Server 2022, I'm sorry, just getting rid of some of this noise in the background for me. If we look towards Windows Server 2022, there's some differences in the new version that Microsoft released to the 2019 version. With Windows Server 2019, Microsoft offered 2 servicing channels, the long-term servicing channel and the semi-annual channel, and I've listed the descriptions from Microsoft on the screen. The LTSC model was a major version release of Windows Server, and usually Microsoft releases this every 2 or 3 years. And in this case, the previous version was 2019, it was released in 2018, and the latest version is 2022, which was released in 2021. But as you can see, that's a 3-year term. Usually with Microsoft, you have 5 years of mainstream support and 5 years of extended support. This channel provides systems with long servicing option and functional stability, and can be installed with Server Core or Server with Desktop Experience installation options, which you might be familiar with if you use Windows Server a lot. Then you had the semi-annual channel, and the semi-annual channel enabled customers who are innovating quickly to take advantages of new operating system capabilities at a faster pace. Basically, what they did was every half a year, they would release a new version of Windows Server, a new build that had some new capabilities included in it, and you would be able to benefit from those immediately if you were on the semi-annual, on the semi-annual channel release. When they released the Windows Server 2022 version, however, they removed the SAC option and went back to just LTSC, which was the way it was before that time as well. If you are still or are on the SAC version of Windows Server 2019 and you want to stay there, that's fine. it probably won't get any more updates. I'm not sure of that. It doesn't list that in the information I've seen, but you can still remain using the 2019 SAC version. It becomes interesting when you want to move to 2022, because then you would need to move to the LTSC version of 2022 or move to Azure Stack HCI, which does have an annual or semi-annual release schedule for new builds. And what Microsoft states with this is that most features that they have introduced in the past SAC builds for Windows Server 2019 have been moved to the 2022 version. So you are able to benefit from those updates that they did in the SAC of 2019 with the 2022 version.